the Department of Education this week finalized new rules that will change how colleges investigate sexual assault on campus, giving more protections to students accused of wrongdoing. Schools are obligated to respond to sexual assault allegations under the federal statute Title IX, but exactly how they've done that has been largely left up to them. Typically, a complaint would trigger an on-campus investigation, often, but not always, followed by a hearing. The new rules, championed by Education Secretary Betsy DeVos, make proceedings look more like criminal trials, requiring live hearings where those accused of sexual assault can cross-examine their accusers through a lawyer or advocate.
The notion that a school must diminish due process rights to better serve the victim only creates more victims.
It's a shift some see as a useful correction, but others think it will make an already difficult situation for victims even worse.
We demand greater accountability in the service of survivors. Fix Title IX.
Vice News spoke to students and advisors involved in Title IX investigations at different schools to see how the process works now and how it will change come August, when the rules go into effect.
Oversight, do it right. Oversight, do it right.
I had just started my sophomore year of college. I was assaulted by one of my peers in one of the dormitories on my school's campus. It took a long time for me to want to come forward at all. And at that point, the only really thing I could have done was go through the university.
So Jane filed a complaint with her school's Title IX office.
I felt that I'd probably have a better shot at least being heard through the university than with the police, because if there's no evidence, it's pretty much a dead end from there. So I was referred by the director of Title IX to two investigators who are both female.
A Title IX investigator, as they're called on a college campus, their role is to go in and gather all the facts that they need in order to determine if there's a violation of policy. So that investigator will go in and meet with, usually first, the complainant, which would be the person that is making the accusation, and then any witnesses. Also gather evidence. It could be video cameras that are on campus, or text messages or social media exchanges. Then they'll sit down and meet with the respondent or the person being accused, get their information and their version of events.
During my senior year of college, I was falsely accused of sexual assault.
John goes to a different school. His case is unrelated to Jane's. But when he was accused of sexual assault, he also found himself in a Title IX proceeding.
I get an email from an administrator at my school indicating that I was charged with violating the student code of conduct and that I was accused of sexual assault. So when I went in to give my statement about what had happened, at this point, I still have this misplaced trust in the adults at my university that if I just go and tell the truth, everything would be fine.
After it gets to an investigative stage, then you might see different options on different campuses. Some may have a single investigator model where the investigator actually, investigates the case and then makes a determination as to responsibility. And then other campuses may have a hearing.
Under a single investigator model or investigator model type of process, there is generally one person who acts as judge, jury, and executioner.
DeVos's new rules do away with that single investigator model. Going forward, all schools must hold hearings.
After the investigation, they scheduled a hearing. It was conducted in a long, rectangular room with a very large conference table in the middle. On the opposite side of the table, there were 3 individuals that would be serving as the 3 panel members.
Your hearing panels are typically members of campus who've been specifically trained to handle Title IX matters. So it could be comprised of faculty members, staff members, students, a mixture of all of the above.
Generally, schools will discourage parties from having lawyers involved. But that does not mean that lawyers are not allowed to be a part of the process on either side.
In a criminal trial, you have the right to confront your accuser. In my situation, they had a barrier in between us, And so she never had to see me.
That partition is specifically in place to prevent the parties from seeing each other and directly interacting with each other.
My first visual reminder that this person was 3 feet away from me was his arm reaching out to pass something over to one of the adjudicators. And there was something about seeing the hand and seeing his skin and his clothing and what he smelled like. Was like sickening to me.
Under the previous guidance in 2011, cross-examination was strongly discouraged.
The regulations also limit the cases schools are required to investigate and give them the option to apply a higher standard of proof.
Clear and convincing evidence equates to, is it highly probable or reasonably certain that the evidence supports the allegations?
The burden of proof is very different, much higher in a criminal proceeding, which is beyond a reasonable doubt, to show that somebody violated the law. But in a campus proceeding, what they're trying to do is to figure out whether this individual should continue to be a member of their campus community. So it's just much more laid back.
The decision that I received was that he was not responsible. And what they reminded me was that just because he isn't found responsible doesn't mean that my university doesn't believe that it happened.
Hearing ends. 45 minutes later, I'm found responsible. Suspended for the remainder of that year and permanently banned from all of the student organizations that I had been a part of. After the finding, when I went in and spoke to the female investigator from my school, she tried to console me by saying, "No one thinks that you did this on purpose or that you're a rapist."
If somebody from my university asked me if they should do the same, I don't know if I could say yes, 100%. Go forward, tell your story, because I don't feel at all benefited from having done that myself.
So I ended up pursuing litigation. My university agreed in the settlement to completely expunge my disciplinary record, as well as pay me a pretty hefty settlement in the 6 figures.
I think schools want to be fair in these Title IX hearings and processes. I think they have the tools at their disposal. I think they're still getting it wrong.